Welcome back, everyone. This is another edition of the Sports Daily College Football Podcast. We did this video with my top 25 for college football's 2026 preseason. Now we're going to do Sean's top 25 again. This is all Sean's doing. So if you have disagreements with me or him, make sure you're doing it on the right video. And I'm kind of going to narrate this one. I'm going to grill Sean on why he has these teams where he has them. And in my video, we kind of ended with the most important team and somehow the most important team, yet the second biggest program based on recent success in the state of Indiana. That is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Not to take too many shots at our Fighting Irish viewers. We do love them, and they've been a very good viewing base. With that said, though, Sean, CJ Carr's back, Marcus Freeman back, Chris Ash back as defensive coordinator in his second season. Where do we have the Fighting Irish?
I've got them at number 7, Joe. I think the offense is really not that big of a question. Even though you lose two running backs in the first round, they're going to roll over. They're going to score a lot of points, especially against their schedule. That is probably what's holding them back for me. If they even lose one game, I think a bye is probably out of the question in the college football playoff. And if they lose two, they're going to be very nervous on Selection Sunday again. Um, but yeah, I think they're not going to. There's nothing that they can do to prove that they should be ranked number one in the regular season to me, unless some of the teams that they play turn out to be way better than expected. They have a few good teams on their schedule, but they should be able to go 12-0 without even playing like better than a top five team in the country. So I've got them at number 7. I think CJ Carr will take a big step. He's probably going to be on my Heisman short list when we do that video. I think he's got a chance to do something really special this year. But Notre Dame is 7 for me.
Notre Dame at number 7. So now, Sean, let's go to the team that was one of the two that prevented Notre Dame from being in the college football playoff. Let's go to that ACC, which will be a good brunt of Notre Dame's schedule based on that agreement from years and years ago. Where do we have the national runner-up Miami Hurricanes?
I have got them one spot ahead, Joe, of Notre Dame.
Kind of like on Selection Sunday, too.
Yep, they do play again this year up in South Bend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
That's going to be a huge game for both these teams because neither of these teams play in the Big Ten or the SEC. And it's going to be hard for the loser to jump the winner when it comes to playoff time. But they ended the season extremely well last year. Some will say they're a little fortunate to get a shot. Well, they took their shot and they took the national champions to the brink and nearly took them down. I think their talent is leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the conference and on par with some of the top teams in these other leagues. Some will argue it's not an upgrade, but I believe it is at quarterback. Darian Mensah, the transfer from Duke, Tulane before then, over Carson Beck. But I think that Miami is going to win the ACC rather easily, and their biggest game of the year might be this Notre Dame game early in the year.
Don, using Notre Dame as our center view, this team does not play Notre Dame, but is from the ACC. I think maybe one of the most interesting programs in all of college football might not just be this year, the next 3 years, because I'm just really intrigued by the James Franklin storyline. Where do we have Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I've got Virginia Tech at number 20, Joe. I think that there's a real chance that they can find their way into the ACC championship game. And then at that point, it's one game, right? If you make a conference championship game, there's a realistic chance that you can make the college football playoff. You're 60 minutes away. I think Franklin, his Penn State recruits that he's brought over, his quarterback, and Grunkmeyer, like the Penn State product that we have seen over the last few years is going to, if it's anywhere close to that, it's going to fit in pretty well in the ACC in terms of talent level, in terms of execution. They're going to be near the top of this league. I don't think anywhere on the same tier as Miami, but I still think they are probably in the top 2 or 3 in the ACC, so I'm giving them number 20.
Don, we have one last team, I believe, from the ACC in your top 25. Do you want to say the team? Because a lot of people are speculating whether it's one or the other.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same team that you had in your top 25, Joe, SMU. I threw them into my last spot at number 25. Um, a lot of the same things you said. I think Rhett Lashley's a really good coach. I think there's a chance that he's not there for much longer. You've got a quarterback who's played a lot of college football games. I just think that the SMU that we've seen is going to be good enough to finish in the top 3 or 4 of the ACC, and that's going to be a lot of wins. These other leagues, you're going to have teams on here that are going to lose 4 and 5 games. If SMU loses 2 or 3 games, they should be in the top 25.
Absolutely, Sean. With that said, let's now go to another team, another conference that has a majority of its teams in the South. That is the Southeastern Conference. Sean, let's actually go from from the lower ranked teams because I think those were more notable to me when looking at this list than the higher ranked teams, like the teams closer to the top 10. Sean, at number 22, you have a really intriguing team with a first year head coach.
Yeah, this is one, Joe, that I think is more schedule based than anything. I really do like John Summerall, and I'm talking about Florida if you haven't figured that out already. I think the Gators have the talent to not be as terrible as they've been. They and they have the schedule to win more games than they probably should. I think Summerall is a great coach. He was an excellent hire. There's a reason why all of the vacant jobs in the league wanted him. He did great things where at Tulane. I think Florida, it's sort of at the end of the top 25. You throw some teams in there that could do well or could not. I think there's a lot of questions around Florida. Will Summerall's will Summerall ball work in the SEC? But I think there's a chance it does. So I threw him in at the end of the rankings.
Yeah, also Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, Jaden Ball could be worse guys to rely on offense. All right, Sean. At number 21, we have a team whose coach was in a lot of coaching rumors lately, but is ultimately staying. Reveal your 21st ranked team, will you?
Yeah, this I've got Missouri here. It's a very similar situation to Florida. I think there's a chance that they could be really solid. They obviously did lose their quarterback to Virginia, Bo Prabula. Ahmad Hardy, their running back, was shot, and it's not clear what part he's going to play in the season. But they were really good last year. I thought they got a little bit of the short end of the stick when it came to respect. So I think it's just another one of those teams that could do something. So I threw them in at the end of the top 25 at 21.
Certainly going to be interesting. We'll see if Austin Simmons keeps that job or maintains it or whatnot. All right, Sean, let's go all the way to number 13. This is an intriguing trio you're going to have here. So let's start at number 13.
All right, number 13, Joe. I have Alabama. The story on Kalen DeBoer, you can go read about it yourself. Super high expectations in Alabama, whether it's deserved or not. I think they're just going to be a similar version that we've seen in the past. Ty Simpson is gone from there. I'm not sure that they're going to have the same level of play at quarterback, but it's Alabama still. They've got a ton of talent. I think that there is a pretty high floor for this team. I don't think they're going to lose 6 games or anything like that, but I do think that they're going to lose one too many games to make the college football playoff. So 13 for Alabama for me.
All right, Sean, going a tad out of order here, but let's stay in this order. At number 12, you have, I think, probably the team that might be the most watched team in the country just by independent viewers, if you consider that a thing. So non-fans of this team. Reveal your number 12 for us.
Yeah, so number 12 is going to be a team, a state over from Alabama in the same conference. That's going to be LSU, the Lane Kiffin story. We know all about that. Sam Levitt is a quarterback who I think is very overrated in terms of, he's a good quarterback, but he was ranked as the number one portal quarterback some places. Not sure if that's exactly fair. He did some good things at Arizona State, but he was injured most of last year and was pretty ineffective. But they still have an incredible amount of talent. They still have Lane Kiffin who can score, who has scored a lot of points at multiple places in his career, most recently Ole Miss. It's just a team that I think is going to be a little bit distracted by all of the things that are going on around them. Like you said, their games are going to have a lot of viewers on them. Lane Kiffin is constantly going to be asked questions about things that are not LSU football. So I think they will miss the college football playoff because at 12, that is not going to get you in under the current rules.
All right, Sean. Let's go to number 11. Then we're going to go a bit of a wild card out of order here, but let's go to number 11.
All right, number 11 is Pete Golding in the Running Rebels from Ole Miss. I think that they really shocked the world by being really good in the college football playoff after they lost Kiffin. Trinidad Chambliss is back. He's sued for a fifth year. They still have Kwan Lacey at running back. They're an extremely explosive offense. Pete Golding is a defensive guy. Not sure if elevating your typically elevating your defensive coordinator when the defense isn't the strength is the better idea. When a coach leaves, you usually elevate the coordinator who's not as good because you keep the good coordinator in the position that they're doing good at. Now, usually it's the other way around, but I think Ole Miss has got a lot of things to look forward to this year. The early game against LSU is something that I think everybody should watch because it's going to be there's a lot going on off the field there, which is very has been said multiple times. But I think Ole Miss has a chance to be really good again. Most pretty much just because of Chambliss. I mean, he put on such a show last year in the playoff, and he's going to be hard to stop no matter how much film you have on him.
All right, Sean. Let's actually go down to number 19. This is a team that's in and out of a lot of top 25s by a lot of analysts nationwide. Explain why you have this team at number 19.
Yeah, so I'm staying in the SEC, Joe, for this one. I've got Tennessee at number 19. I'm not really sure what to think about them. I think Josh Heupel's a very good coach. They have got, they had the whole Nico situation last year that I don't want to say that was a distraction, but he was going to be their quarterback. Then he wanted more money and then left. And whether that was really what happened or not, I don't know. This is kind of just a safe place for me to put them, Joe, where if they're not good, I can say, well, look, I didn't think they'd be that good. They were 19th. Like, I think they're definitely a tier below the Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss tier of the SEC, which is below what I think the top two teams are. But I think there's just Tennessee could get themselves into the playoff conversation, but it's a really tough schedule. I'm not really sure what to think about Tennessee, to be honest.
You and many, Sean, including probably Tennessee fans. All right, Sean, let's go up to we're gonna skip number 10 for now. Let's go up to your eighth and ninth team in the country, both from the SEC.
Okay, so number 9, Joe, I have Oklahoma. John Mateer back for another year. You mentioned this in your video that he was not healthy last year. He was great before he got hurt, though. He was probably the Heisman favorite at that point. Now he got hurt, and then he tried to come back, and he wasn't the same. But he is good enough to carry a bad offense, which Oklahoma was when he wasn't 100%. The defense is not going to be a problem. Brent Venables was the best defensive coordinator in the country for years when he was at Clemson, and he has translated that to Norman pretty well. It's just been the offense that has let him down. I think it's going to be enough. John Mateer is going to provide enough to get them back into the playoff, but are they going to win the SEC or compete for the national championship? I don't think so. So 9th is where I have the Sooners. And then the other team that you wanted to mention was Texas A&M, right, at number 8.
Mhm.
Marcel Reed is back for another year. Texas A&M had a great season last year, 11-1, until they lost in the first round to Miami in the playoff. It's a big example of why these big conferences might not be the best for the sport. They played their first 7 SEC games were the teams that finished the 7 bottom on the SEC. They ended up losing to Texas in their final game, and then they lost to Miami in the playoff. Like I said, I just think that there's a lot of questions around how legitimate that team was last year. Maybe similar to Indiana in 2024. We know how that worked out for them in 25. So are they? They're going to have a chip on their shoulder because there are people that are doubting them. I'm going to say they're going to get back to the college football playoff, even though they lost a lot of talent, especially wide receiver, to the NFL. But I think they're a good enough team to get back there. So I have them at number 8.
Don, your highest ranked SEC teams are at 4 and 5. Do you mind filling us in on who I think no one's going to be shocked by your top ranked SEC teams?
Yeah, so if you know what's coming this year, these two teams won't be a surprise. I've got Georgia at 4 and Texas at 5. I think there's a chance that these two are a tier above the rest of the league. We have Georgia, who's run this league the past few years, especially since Nick Saban has been gone. They have consistently been at the top, and their biggest question might be the quarterback, who is a pretty solid quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. So I think they are the best team. They're my pick to win the SEC. And then at number 5, I have Texas, Sark, and Arch Manning back for another year. The narrative around Manning has been very odd the last year or so, Joe. He was very highly, Heisman pick beginning of last year. He was not good early in the season. People completely wrote him off, said he stinks, he's no good, and he really built a pretty solid rhythm at the end of the year. And Texas wasn't a playoff team. They were pretty close. I think they're 14th or 15th in the final ranking. I think Arch is going to start off this season where he left off, and that's not even the beginning of it when it comes to Texas, because they might have the most talent in the country everywhere else. I think this is a make or break year for Sark and the Longhorns, because if this team can't do it, then and do it, I mean, like, make the playoff and maybe win one game. Like, how much can you get for how much can you get from him if he can't win with this team? So
Right.
this a lot of pressure on him, but I have Texas at number 5. I think they probably lose a great SEC championship game to Georgia, and they will be in the playoff.
All right, Sean. Let's actually go group of 5 here. I think we saw eye to eye on this. So without spoiling it, if you haven't watched mine yet, who's your group of 5 team in the top 25?
Yeah, it's the midshipmen from Navy, Joe. We did not talk about our rankings before we did this. I've got them at 24. Hold on, it's not loading here for a second, but I do have them at 24. I will put them in a second. But yeah, I think that their offense is really, really cool. I think the American Conference in general is really, really cool, especially the teams at the top. Last year, you had teams like Navy, North Texas, Tulane, that were all really solid teams and probably deserving of top 25 spots. But yeah, they're my pick right now. They're at 24. Let me just refresh this page so I can get back to inputting my teams. But I have got Navy at number 24 and my pick to make the college football playoff.
All right, Sean. Hopefully, just give me a thumbs up when those load. Anyway,
We can
we
keep
will now
going. I
go
can just
to
catch up to it
yeah,
later.
yeah. So 24 Navy. Now let's go to the Forgotten Conference, and this is the Big 12. We do have a lot of similar takes here, maybe a bit difference in the exact ranking. But Sean, who do you have at number 23 from the Big 12, just one spot above Navy?
Yeah, so they're my third ranked team in the Big 12, Joe, and I think these three also appeared in your top 25 and have pretty clearly separated themselves from the rest of the league. That's Utah at number 23. They still have Devin Dampier. They obviously lost their coach to Michigan. A number of questions around really how good the Big 12 will be after Texas Tech didn't do so great in the playoff last year after dominating that league. But yeah, Utah at 23. I think they're a solid team. They've got talent on both sides of the ball, but I believe they are a tier below the two teams at the top.
All right, Sean, let's now go to their in-state rival slash neighbor slash holy war opponent, the BYU Cougars. Where do we have them?
Yeah, I've got them up at 16, Joe. I think it is a little bit of a, levels. BYU and Coach Sataki probably have an equal amount of talent, better execution, and they were a better team last year too. So I think that BYU will be in the Big 12 championship game. I think they will beat Utah in their rivalry game. So 16 for me for BYU.
16 for the BYU Cougars. All right, Sean, let's go to number 10. And this will not shock anyone, but who is your number 10?
Number 10 for me is Texas Tech, the my pick to win the Big 12. I know that they didn't play great in their game against Oregon, Joe, but that's not really a problem when it comes to playing other teams in the Big 12. They've got excellent talent. They've got such a resource advantage over the rest of the league. They are operating somewhere in the top 10 when it comes to finances. That is expected to continue. I think they are the class of the Big 12, and I don't think that's going to change for the time being.
All right, Sean, let's actually go from the top because we will have three ranked Big Ten teams here. Let's go number one. This will probably be elicit the most reactions at this stage of the video.
Yeah, so the top three, Joe, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get back into
Mhm.
this. So for the viewers, you can't see my screen right now because it's not loading, and very, very sorry, but I will go to the top three, all from the Big Ten. I think that these, really the top four teams, I think can be interchanged anyway. I'm going Indiana number one. Obviously, might be a little biased there, but I do think that they were 16-0 last year. Both coordinators are still around. They have an unbelievable transfer class coming in, led by the quarterback Josh Hoover from TCU. A lot of similarities to Mendoza in terms of strengths and weaknesses. You also bring in Nick Marsh, probably the best receiver in the Big Ten outside of Jeremiah Smith. And then on top of that, you bring back a number of defensive players that were big last year, including a couple of fifth-year guys who just got the nod. But I think until further notice, Indiana should be ranked number one. We've got Oregon number two and Ohio State number three. Oregon and really any of these three teams, I think, have an argument for number one. But Dante Moore's back for Oregon. Dan Lanning and the Ducks are still going to operate like they've got something to prove because they do until they win at least a Big Ten championship, let alone a national championship. But yeah, I think this Oregon team has a little bit of an easier schedule this year. They don't have to play Indiana. I don't think they have to play Ohio State either. That might not be true, but my computer's not loading, so I can't double check. But and Ohio State number three, Julian Sayin is back. We do have to remember how good we thought Ohio State was until they weren't last year. We thought they were clear and away the number one team in the country. They weren't really tested. Then when the lights were the brightest, they did not perform the way they wanted to. So I think they're going to operate with a chip on their shoulder too. Jeremiah Smith is back, like we said, probably the best chance for a non-quarterback to win Heisman. Now that would have to come with Sayin having a good year too, and Ohio State having a good year. And where does that put the Heisman conversation? That's a conversation for another day. But those are my top three teams, all from the Big Ten, Joe.
All right, Sean. Now, here's where it gets pretty interesting as well. At number 14, you have a team that a lot of people are not as high, and number 15, the same there. So pick any order of how you. Oh no, Sean, I have you back.
Yep, sorry, just a little reset there to see if I can get my rankings back up. Um, what were you saying there, Joe? Sorry.
Yeah, number 14 and 15, we're gonna have two teams that not a lot of people would have put there in terms of even Big Ten rankings. Let's start at number 15. Who do you have there?
Yeah, I've got the Washington Huskies at 15, Joe. A lot of they're very intriguing going into the year because they have, I think, hit the necessary benchmarks. We'll say entering the Big Ten. Not at Oregon's level, but they've certainly held their own. They didn't lose a road game in year one, and the only a home game, and the only home game they lost last year was to Ohio State. Demond Williams is their quarterback, might be the most dynamic quarterback, at least in the Big Ten, maybe the country when it comes to dual threat and all that. The schedule is really tough though for Washington. I don't know if the path is there for them to make the playoff unless they're able to beat somebody that they shouldn't. But I think they're a really good team, and if the pieces fall, in the right way, maybe they sneak in, but I've got Washington at 15.
All right, at number 14, Sean, another West Coast team.
Yeah, I think these two teams are going to be very similar, Joe. You had them pretty close. I do too. It's USC. A lot to prove for Lincoln Riley. Since he's come over from Oklahoma, they have not hit some of the. They have not been as good as expected. They've been a solid team, and pretty much anywhere else would be pretty happy with what they've done. But he needs to translate better things into wins. They've got a crazy expensive roster. They've scored 1 billion points, whether they were in the Pac 12 or the Big Ten. I think it is a make or break it year for Lincoln Riley, but I don't think the defense has enough to make the playoffs, so I've got him at 14.
Sean, at number 17, a lot of people are going to be shocked that you have this team over the team you have at 18.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to expect from either of these teams. Well, no, I am sure what to expect for one of them, not the other. I've got Iowa at 17, Michigan at 18. Um, I think we know exactly what Iowa's going to do. We're just not exactly sure where that will pan out in terms of the Big Ten in the country. They're going to be 9-3. They're going to beat the teams that aren't very good. They're going to have close games against the good teams. Can they get over the hump? Can they get a win against a top elite team? I would suggest no to that, which is why I have them at 17. But it's Iowa. You can get anybody to put on those black and yellow jerseys, and I think they'll put out a pretty good product in terms of wins. Maybe not the most pleasing to the eye, but Iowa at 17. And then I've got one spot higher at number 18. It's your Michigan Wolverines, Joe. Kyle Whittingham has come in unequivocally a upgraded head coach when it comes to football. It's really all about Bryce Underwood. You've got talent in the other skill positions, like you mentioned in your video, but um, it's really interesting to see how Michigan is going to fare against the elite teams. They took care of business against the scrubs last year, and when they faced quality opponents, they were not on the same level. Now, the way that the schedule worked out, you were still able to get 9 wins, right? Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that level of performance gets you 9 wins this year. You have to be a better team to get 9 wins, and I think that's probably where you finish, somewhere in that 9 to 10 win range. And unless one of those wins is against Indiana or Ohio State, that's probably not going to be enough to make the playoff. I think it'll be close. It'll be a pretty good team, but unfortunately, I think they'll come up a little bit short too at number 18. All right, Joe, I do finally have my rankings back up, so let me update those. We got to go back to Navy, who is 24.
Mhm.
We have got Utah at 23. We have got
Michigan at 18,
Michigan at 18.
Iowa at 17,
Iowa at 17.
the Huskies of Washington at 15,
Washington at 15. We've got BYU at 16.
USC at 14,
USC at 14. Texas
the
Tech
Texas
at
Tech
10.
Red Raiders at 10, and then your top three: Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Yep. And then 4 and 5 are Georgia and Texas. So that's pretty good timing that it all came back up right at the end of the video. I will show it one more time. Sorry about that, but not really sure what happened. The connection stayed for our Zoom call here, but it didn't stay on Google Drive. So that is my top 25. Obviously, tried to throw some things in there that you're not going to see everywhere else, but also, you want it to look pretty good at the end of the season. So, Joe, unless you got anything else to add, I think we'll wrap it up here.
All good, Sean.
All right, so thank you for tuning into this video. Check out Joe's video if you haven't already, and be sure to check out some more preseason stuff, bold predictions, playoff predictions, Heisman picks. All of that is coming before week 0. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.